the agenda.
I make a motion to adopt the agenda as written.
I second.
All in favor? All right. Before we go into the public hearing, I want to make a general statement. So there's a lot of people here that may or may not want to speak. We're not doing a sign-up list like we usually do in normal meetings. So if you will, we will try and stick to a 3-minute per person speaking so we can try and get to everybody. If not enough people want to speak, we'll definitely come back to you and you can speak more, just in the sense of trying to make sure everybody gets the chance to be heard. Please be respectful of each other when someone is speaking. Don't overtalk them. Wait your turn to come to the podium, all right? So do I have a motion to go into public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? And now public hearing to discuss House Bill 581, the intent to opt out of homestead exemption.
All right.
I need to read a couple documents before we start. Meriwether County's intent to opt out of statewide homestead exemption under House Bill 581. Meriwether County Board of Commissioners has formally announced its decision to opt out of the newly proposed statewide homestead exemption under House Bill 581. This decision reflects the county's dedication to protecting its residents from potential tax increases that could result from adopting the statewide exemption. House Bill 581, introduced in the Georgia legislature, proposes a uniform homestead exemption for all counties. However, Meriwether County's analysis reveals that the county's current floating homestead exemption, in place for 24 years, offers far greater benefit to its residents by capping taxable home values and shielding homeowners from market-driven tax increases. By opting out, we are prioritizing the long-term financial well-being of our homeowners. The statewide exemption under House Bill 581 ties taxable home values to inflation, which could lead to higher taxes over time. Our existing floating exemption ensures affordability and stability for Meriwether County residents. 3 public hearings will be held to provide information and gather feedback from residents, the first of which is tonight that you're here for. There'll be a second one on February 11th, 2025, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. And a third one on February 18th, 2025, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. All hearings will take place at Meriwether County Board of Commissioners office. Further is, the Meriwether County proposes to maintain its long-standing floating homestead exemption, which has existed for 24 years. It was voted in 2000. In 2004, it was on the ballot again to be rescinded, and the citizens of Meriwether County failed to pass it to rescind, so they voted in favor of maintaining it in 2004, and since then it has not been challenged again, it has been in place. This is believed by the board to be more beneficial than the House Bill 581. The exemption freezes a home's taxable value at its purchase value, protecting homeowners from rising property taxes due to market appreciation. The new state exemption under House Bill 581, while very similar, includes annual increases tied to inflation, resulting in higher taxable values and potentially greater costs for homeowners. A brief summary real quick of what our floating homestead exemption in Meriwether County entails. So the assessed value at the time of ownership will remain the same.
Just a little
bit more. So your assessed value at time of ownership remains the same unless you sell the property. Then the new owner will be reassessed, not you, the new owner, and then have to pay the new market whenever that is. If you obtain a permit to upgrade, remodel, do additions to your home, add a pool, add a guest house, things like that, it increase the value of the home, you will be reassessed at that time, and then your taxes will go up. If you do not do those things, your taxes right now under the current statute do not increase, except for one of a few occasions. Meriwether County has to stay between 38% and 42% of total assessed value of the county. So we have to bring in that much revenue of all of the property in the county, 38 and 42%. If we do not maintain that, we do not get public utility funding from things like Georgia Power, Diverse Power, things like that. So we get a lot of tax and funding from them. They will pay at a percentage rate of whatever our tax base rate is, which is why we have to stay at 38 to 42% to guarantee we get 40% from those entities. Some of you have seen this year your tax bill went up slightly because of an adjustment done to get us to stay within 38 to 42%. So that's one way your taxes will increase as it is today without selling or remodeling. The second way that can increase is if this Board of Commissioners increases the millage rate. That'll obviously make your taxes go up. That has not happened in the last 5 years. No intent to do that going forward as we continue to generate more revenue with businesses and new homes being built. If the Board of Education increases its millage rate, which it has not done recently, then your taxes could go up if it increases. If you live in the city limits, then that city where you pay taxes, if they increase their millage rate, your taxes could go up. One of the negatives that people talk about is the property taxes vary from neighbor to neighbor. So as I explained, if I buy a piece of property in a home in, 2 years ago, and it's assessed, and then there's the value. Mr. Will comes in next door to me 2 years later and buys the exact same house and exact same amount of property. 2 years of appreciation, his is going to be valued more than mine and will be assessed at a higher rate than mine. So essentially, he and I would be living in two identical homes and pieces of property next door to each other. He'll be paying a higher tax rate than I will. The next guy comes in down from him, the same thing. So that's one of the negatives that sometimes people say, well, why am I paying more taxes when we have basically the same property? It's the time of it when you've done it, and your taxes will never increase unless we go back to one of those things I've just listed. Right? House Bill 581 was intended to curb rapidly rising property taxes. To stop going by the house market value and then changing that in the tax digest and have it tied to inflation, or the CPI, which is the Consumer Price Index, is how the government, everybody reflects what inflation is. So in some years that could be 2%, some years we've seen recently 9, 8, 6% of what we've experienced. Our program currently in Meriwether County does not involve that. Okay. So I want to get that out there, make sure everybody had all the information, and then that may answer a few questions. Haven't heard that. So we'll open it up to the first person who wants to speak. If you will, just please, when you get there, state your name and address, and then we'll move forward from there. Yes, sir. Please approach the podium. Do we have a microphone?
I can sit up here so I can hold it for everybody to see.
We're just gonna get a microphone to help. Some people are in online, make sure they can hear you.
And so please make sure you put your name and stuff on the sheet.
Yeah, okay. I don't know if I'm gonna talk about that. I'll fill the rest out. Speak to you or speak to them?
All of us, however you want to do it. You can turn around in circles.
My name's Ryan Moore. I'm city councilman for the city of Greenville. And I'm not here to sway anybody either way, on either side. But I got to give this presentation tomorrow night at city council meeting, so I figured I'd come here and test it on you guys first, make sure I'm right when I say this kind of stuff. Now, of course, everything he said, bunch of tax stuff. Unless you study this stuff, there's no way you just followed what he just said. There's just no way. That is some deep, deep tax stuff. I'm here to explain if you stay in compared to if you stay out. If we stay in, if everybody stays in, I'm just going to read, this is stuff from the ACCG, I'll read it off. Should my local government opt out of the homestead exemption if we already have another form of homestead exemption? Which we do in Meriwether County. He just explained it. We have a homestead exemption, and it works really well. Sometimes it pisses your neighbor off, but it works well if you stay in your home a long time. And remember, we're only talking about homeowners, not commercial, agriculture, industrial, nothing. We're only talking about homeowners here, and only homeowners who stay in their homes. So if the homestead exemptions are equivalent, you may want to consider opting out. Because like he said, we already have a homestead exemption it's saying you may as well opt out to reduce confusion. The confusion is on Will over here in the tax office, who now has to calculate scenario A, Meriwether County, compared to scenario B, HB 581. Because a positive thing about staying in, you get calculated on both, and you receive the better plan. Whatever gives you a better tax rate, that's what you get. If you stay in, Will has to calculate two different ways. The first scenario, Meriwether County, compared to the new HB 581 homestead exemption. They're both homestead exemptions. You may call it floating, base year, frozen. It's all the same thing. It is a homestead exemption, which we currently have. Some counties in Georgia don't have this, and they're going to love HB 581 coming in because they didn't have a homestead exemption. Am I correct? Some counties don't have it.
Correct.
I thought it was statewide, but it's not. So that would benefit them. Will the HB 581 homestead exemption affect a homeowner's existing homestead exemptions? No. If they stayed in, all you're doing is having your taxes calculated two different ways, and you receive the best one. Chances are the best one, they're correct, Meriwether County is going to beat it hands down every time. I can't calculate that any other way. You're being added by inflation on one, and theirs is added by 0. There's no way that HB 581 is even going to come into play. But what I'm going to throw at you, where are we going to be in 10 years? Where's our government going to be in 10 years? Is this going to play an advantage in 10 years? This is a 50-year plan. Is this going to be an advantage in 50 years? Possibly. I don't know. Right now, no, it's not. Meriwether County's plan is better. But if you stay in, you get calculated on both. And if I may speak just one more second.
Go ahead.
All right. I don't know if you're familiar with the FLOST, the floss. It's like SPLOS, it's like T-SPLOS. It's a special tax. It's a 1 cent tax. It could be half a cent to 1 cent that they would vote on. Did you ever find out would it add a penny to our sales tax, Will?
They have not.
Okay, we don't know if it would add a penny to our sales tax or
From what I read, it has to go up in a 0.5% increment. So
Okay.
it would start out at a half a penny,
8.5,
basically.
okay. So it would add, so the advantage of this 1 cent sales tax is the more we bring in. All right, I'm gonna throw Noonan in this because obviously Noonan's got more retail. We're talking about retail. So the retail space that they have in Noonan brings in a lot of tax revenue. Imagine if they sign this, 1% of that tax revenue goes back on your property tax bill as a discount per se, right? And it'll show as a line item. So if Dillard's has a good weekend, that's good for the citizens of Noonan. If, downtown Greenville, downtown Manchester, Woodbury, insert here has a good weekend, that's good for the citizens, because that's 1 cent back right in your, so this is separate. House Bill 581 was two things. One was the homestead exemption. The second is the floss. Either way, we can still stay with the floss. Even if they opt out, we can still stay with the floss because we have a homestead exemption in play. That's the basis of the ability of a county to be able to qualify for that is having a homestead exemption, which we do. So we can still do the cool part. They just got to decide on the opt-in and out the other part. That is my spiel, so sway either way you'd like.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak?
Get out of this thing.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, do y'all know how many homesteads claim exemption in the county?
We
Do what?
don't know off the top of our head, no, sir.
Okay, try to find that out. How much money are we talking about if nobody else can ever claim homestead exemption again?
Now, that's not going to change whether people can apply for homestead or not. If we opt out of this House bill, that doesn't mean that Will can't come into the county, buy a new home and claim homestead exemption on it. He would still be able to claim homestead exemption on his home, even if we opt out of this bill.
Do all y'all commissioners claim homestead exemption?
Yes, sir.
I don't know why. There's several counties that do. I know why, but people who are 65 and above don't pay any school board taxes. And and we just voted ourselves in a splash tax for a penny more, and I'm against anything that will increase my taxes. And I would like to see a list of the school board employees from the top to the bottom and see what their salaries are or what their hourly pay is. I know we can get this through the Freedom of Information Act. And do I need to do this, or is that something y'all can do?
We can try, but you would probably be better served asking the Board of Education that yourself.
All right, if
We
you
don't
need some
always-
help, let me know, because I got a brother that's a lawyer and that's what he specializes in.
It would get to you quicker than it would get to us to you because we're two separate entities.
Either way, I may have it published in the paper. I want people to know where the school board money going. In the paper, 3 or 4 weeks ago, it said the school board was out of debt. All right. And then in the same paper, it's told about all the accolades that the schools have won this last year and how good all the test scores are coming up. But in this, the school board says now they need more money to pay the teachers more to get better qualified teachers. It looks like to me, with all these awards that the county's getting, they got pretty good teachers. But I'd like to see that salary base from top to the lowest janitor. All right,
We
thank
will
you.
relay that request, yes, sir. Anyone else?
If no one else would like to speak, I mean, Adam did a very good job before the start of the meeting, kind of going through what our current homestead exemption is, why it's best for the county and for the citizens to stay in it. I lived in this county my whole life, and to me, after doing all this research, I personally think we should opt out of it. I think it's going to be better for me, my parents, friends, and family to not opt into this bill, but is there any?
I can clarify a couple of things that came up. So one sounded like there was confusion of, can anyone file for homestead exemption later? Yes, we still will have a homestead exemption program. It's the current one that we have today. So anyone new coming in can file for homestead exemption on their property. That will not change. The floss,
If anybody moves into the county, like you said, their property will be assessed at a higher value because the property was sold, but they'll still be eligible for homestead exemption.
correct. As far as the floss, in order, we can do that, but the county government and the city governments within the county, we would have to have enough cities to equal 50% or more of the county population would have to agree to enter that FLOST and have to enter an intergovernmental agreement to do so. We do that all the time with T-Splost, Splost. It was done with E-Splost. So it's not saying that to think we would not be able to, but there are some items that we have tried to do as entities before that you couldn't get enough support in an intergovernmental agreement to do so. So that is, just for information purposes, the only way that can be done, and we can do this opting in or out. We can still enact this, that then that revenue generated from the sales would reduce your tax bill. But we have to have 50% of the citizens represented, whether it be Manchester in the board, Manchester Woodbury in the board, Woodbury Greenville, Luthersville in the board. That group has to come together in an intergovernmental agreement and represent 50% or more of the citizens for that to take effect.
And it does still have to be a referendum that the citizens have to vote on to implement that FLOST tax as well. So that would be something that would go on the ballot for the citizens of the county to vote on as to whether or not they do want the FLOST implemented or not.
So I want it to be like these fire stations, we pulled the wool over our eyes saying our insurance was gonna go down when we built all these fire stations and bought all these new trucks. Has it gone down? No. We have to pay more to get less.
Yes, sir.
Big question. On the homestead, you have to refile every year, or is it good for
No, you only file for homestead once.
1 year, one time?
Correct, one time.
That's what I thought. I just clarified that. Still kind of new to mechanic.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm gonna have to come up there.
You don't have to, it just helps everybody
I
to
live in
hear.
Manchester, so I know it's, the bill is all on one, when you bill us, okay. Do y'all handle the homestead exemption for Manchester too and all the other cities?
Okay, can y'all hear me? Oh, cool. Okay, the homestead is really a county-wide homestead. So each of the cities, there is no city in Meriwether County that has a homestead exemption. So the exemption applies strictly from the county side.
County side, okay.
And only applies to the county's portion of the taxes, correct? Or
That's kind of it depends on the agreement we got with the
Okay.
city.
So if that is a concern, you could approach the city council or wherever you live and ask them about adding that, entering into a governmental agreement with the county for homestead exemption, and then possibly lower your tax bill even more.
Because I asked them today, and they said, but the county handles all that.
That's kind of true, partial truth.
So if we make an improvement on our property and it has to come out and be assessed, are you assess the inflation value just on that improvement or on the entire property?
Let me ask you this, is that question under the current homestead or is that meaning under the House Bill 581?
If they opt out,
If they opt out, I would come, not me in particular, but someone from my department would come and we would assess only the improvement.
okay, so you would only be charged the inflated value on the improvement, not on the actual.
Correct. Correct. And I do want to clarify one thing. That's if you improve or subtract something from your property. Because people don't think about when you tear that barn down, it changes the value. Because it changes the value, it triggers a reassessment also. Now, the only reason that's different is because that was tied into your total value. It's not something that's added to your value. Anytime you add something on top of the freeze, we're just gonna be, you build a $20,000 pool, I add $20,000 in value. That's kind of how that. But if we were to take $20,000 off of this, I change the base number. Because I'm changing this base number, I'm actually going to reassess you at that point.
So that would be a full reassessment.
Yes, ma'am. I want to make sure that's kind of understood with the deletions. the improvements kind of benefit you, but the deletions open up the door for we to reassess.
So we just don't need to notify and request when we delete something.
Oh, you gotta take out a permit when you demo something, that's the proper way to do it in
I
Marion
want to make sure
County.
that was out there. That's why I brought it up. Yeah, okay.
I'm just a little bit confused about this. The voters in November voted 64% state of Georgia in favor of this amendment. The people of Meriwether County voted 60% voted in favor of it. And I'll have to admit, I don't understand all of the details, but our state government is doing a wonderful job in cutting costs and saving us money. I mean, the governor just announced, what, $1.7 billion surplus, and just for the storm victims in South Georgia, we're able to provide $100 million to rebuild and I can't understand how they can be so far off that this is a bad program for us. And the people voted
I
for it,
won't speak to this.
yet we're opting out. I'd like a copy of your presentation.
Yes, sir.
So that I can
We,
study that some more between now and next week.
We discussed that as a board also, that how do we go against what the majority of the people seem to vote for? And there's a conflict of upholding what everyone voted in a fair election that they wanted versus our job and responsibility of protecting the citizens and their interests, which they elected us to do as well. We believe that the majority of the citizens, as you just said, were misinformed or not fully informed of what all that House Bill 581 entailed. I agree that the state legislature and the governor in the recent years has done a fantastic job of cutting costs and working and building the state of Georgia. And I think House Bill 581 is more geared to the larger community citizens in Atlanta and Alpharetta and Dunwoody and Roswell and Marietta, benefits that majority of the state in that area more than it does the regular working people like us in Meriwether County. So that was how we came to the decision of, if we look at this, what is best to the citizens in our view, and then how can we explain that to where we're wanting to opt out of something that you voted for? But the state did give each governing authority the ability to opt out. So we're not creating this and challenging the state. They gave us, each area, each county, the ability to do so. I hope that helps.
Also, there's 159 counties in Georgia, and I think there was only, like 4 that had a flooding exemption that was equal to the one we have in place.
It's Meriwether County, Carroll County, Muskogee County, and one other that currently operate under what we do.
But the downsides to opting out were some of the things that you mentioned and other things as well. And I'm understanding too that the school board can opt out as well, and if they do, they have a cap at 20% in the mill rate, I happen to know that. And right now, we're at what, 16.948, something like that? So if they can grow, our taxes are gonna go up either way, regardless, because if they don't have the money to pay, they got a $10 million budget, and they don't have the money to pay it, they can continue to go up. Have you guys thought about a cap on the mill rate?
That's a good question. We have not discussed that at this time. The board has reviewed, the last 5 years, the taxes have not increased as far as millage rate. The new tax revenue into the county has far exceeded the growth expectations that we would have foreseen with a millage rate increase. We don't foresee over the next 2 years at the rate that we've been growing, that we would need to raise that millage rate at all. Now, that's not to say anything can change and happen. COVID, something like that again, who knows what, but I can't promise you that it won't change. But the intent and what we've seen from data is that there's no indication that we would need to.
And what negative impact do you see on values, market values as a whole? Because I know that the Tax Foundation put out an article talking about how bad opting out is because it will damage the housing market in Georgia. And you alluded to some of that in your opening, and I'm just wondering, how do you feel like that will impact the housing market? Not necessarily in Meriwether County, but in our area or our region as a whole.
Well, if you can't assess, say you've got a $500,000 home in Atlanta and it's growing rapidly, those cost of living and appreciation, and it goes up to 550 to 600 to 650. If you can't be assessed on that, then people will start challenging the value of that, which means you can't sell that house then because the tax rate says it's not there. Usually home values are based on a lot of other economic factors and school factors and, job growth and those things. And those are generally ignored by whoever wants the house. If you have the funds and you have the job and you have the education system and those things, people will pay whatever it is. It's, the home market is going to drive itself based on who has the money and what the buyer's interest is. The buyer sets the price. I don't see it changing drastically. Meriwether County is behind every one of you guys' property. If you moved it 40 miles up the road, it would probably be worth double what it is here. And that's good and bad, right? If you ever wanted to sell it and use that as your retirement bump, that would be fantastic. Pick it up and move it. If you want to get taxed on it every year, leave it down here. So we're already in a disadvantage from the rest of the state because of how rural we are, that our property values are not skyrocketing and increasing like other areas of the state. They did through COVID. If you look at some of those sites where you look at land values and home values, and because across the nation, home values just skyrocketed. They just assumed everyone's did. And you've probably seen a lot of things sell around you for ridiculous amounts of money. There's one sold next to me. I told my wife, if it sells for that, I'll be selling this one. And then I thought, well, no, because I got to buy another one at that same. So, I don't see it really impacting home prices in our area any more than they already are. It's the only thing, positive growth, we have nowhere to go but grow. I mean, things could always be worse, right? But there's a lot of opportunity for growth, a lot of good things going on, which is only going to drive home values up, and your taxes are going to remain flat.
And one thing I'd like to add is when we talk about 60-something% voted in favor of it, a lot of our voters rent homes or don't own property. And so when they were going through and just voting yes, 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 they may not have realized the impact it's doing to a property owner who they see, or people see homestead exemption and click yes, thinking the state has my interests at heart. When I just got back from a training last week, and I was talking to a lady from Habersham County, and she was one of our instructors, and she said, Meriwether and Habersham were in the same boat. It's not going to affect your county the way it does like Gwinnett and Cobb. And the sad thing is those counties are excited about it, but it's going to come back to the county because they're not going to be getting the revenues where we're already living on the floating exemption. So their property owners are excited about it, but it's going to come back because it hits the commercial properties. If you own rental properties, those are not affected by this bill at all. So if the increase goes up and we adopt it and you own rental properties or commercial property, your values are going to go up because they're no longer covered with what we have going on right now. So it can be detrimental if you own other properties too. But keep in mind, a lot of our voters are not property owners.
Yeah. The thing I was going to state to your question, you said, how does it affect values? When I look at it from a positive standpoint, how could it affect Meriwether by opting out? All the other counties around us, let's say they all opt in. At our current floating exemption, it's better than House Bill 581. So there's a potential for taxpayers, new taxpayers coming into the county to say, hey, Pike County grows at 8% every year, 12%, whatever the inflationary rate is, but Meriwether County does not if I get homestead. There's an opportunity now for us to get that customer in this rural area versus somewhere else. That's the first part in terms of value. Now, there's also this piece where I kind of sat in when this law was being created, so I kind of got information most people don't have. Most of this was revolving around the metro areas because they have the commercial and the industrial infrastructure. The idea is it's okay to give the taxpayer a break, we'll charge the businesses. Okay, now let's come to Meriwether County. The majority of our county is residential. How can we tax the commercial? The difference. If we were to go under House Bill 581, over a time period of time, we would actually collect less tax revenue as a county. That means one of two things end up happening. Either we cut your services, or we have to find a way to tax somebody else. So meaning you have a store that's commercial, you're small business owners. I'm gonna have to put the pressure on you in terms of value. Instead of valuing you every 3 years, I'm probably gonna have to look at that commercial infrastructure every year to keep up with the 40% we're speaking about. To stay in track, I'm not for or against House Bill 581, because in the tax assessment office, my job is to be fair. I can't be counted for or against anything, I have to do the right thing. But in terms of value, I could see how if you don't have a large amount of commercial infrastructure, it could end up hurting your budgets and the services you are providing. That's probably the greatest thing you'll lose.
But in order to make that 38 to 42%, you still have the ability to raise the mill rate and
Well,
all of that.
that's outside of the mill rate, understand? The
Right,
mill rate
right.
counts afterwards.
Right, but what I'm saying is if you're not able to make it based on residential assessments and alone, then you can always raise that mill rate. And that's what I'm concerned about. As a taxpayer, I'm concerned about that mill rate. How high are y'all have to keep this? I don't think the state has a cap for county mill rates. I mean, I know they do for the school. But how high are, and here's another question that I have, that kind of plays into that. I know that they're dealing with about 4%, 4.1%. Can they take that and raise that to the 20% allowed amount in the state of Georgia and transfer that money to the board, to the county?
No, if
Okay, so
whoever
that-
raised their millage rate, that money goes to that particular
Okay,
tax
so
jurisdiction.
we could get a 4% increase in in school taxes, and then whatever, sky's the limit with county. So that concerns me. Do y'all think that we're gonna be at 38, 42% every year doing it, opting out, and continuing to do the way we're doing? Because you do.
We do think so, yes.
So for 5 years, we've been able to stay at 38, 42%, haven't had any problems, and that's the reason you haven't increased.
What, we didn't increase the mill rate.
That's what I'm
We got down dangerously close to that 38%. We're probably gonna be under it, which he had to reassess properties to get us to that 38% minimum to maintain the 40% from public utilities. So we were able to do that, very minimal impact to citizens. We are also engaging in a program that's reassessing commercial properties in the county more aggressively than we ever have. That's one of the, let me say one more thing, man, I'm sorry, I'll come right to you. And that's one of the things that, and I hate to open this up, but, you know, the taxes, what it takes to run government is what it takes. Whether we agree with it or not, on the federal level, state level, or local level. And if you cut tax revenue, it's gotta come from somewhere. And as he said, either services are gonna get cut, and this county cannot afford any more services to get cut, right? Every one of you is probably upset about a paved road and a dirt road and a fire system and every other thing, right, that we're trying to work on. So I'm not trying to turn this into that. But if we lose revenue to be able to service how we are today, we've got to go about tax other areas to be able to provide that so that it doesn't impact you. So,
Or raise the mill rate.
or, yeah, so that's what we're trying to avoid having to do. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I just moved here from, earlier this year from Cobb County, unincorporated Cobb County. And I had a $300,000 house. My property tax was about $500. I moved down here and it's $3,000 for about the same value of house. But to be fair, I don't have a homestead exemption yet because the previous owner didn't put that on there. But, that's how high the taxes are here. But what I was wondering is, my parents have lived here for 35 years. They live off Primrose Road. That road in 35 years has never been repaved. And at first there weren't that many people there, but it's got big chunks all in it and it really needs it. And you've got at least, I would say, 60, maybe 100 new houses down in that area. has anybody thought about charging impact fees to those subdivision developers in order to repave these roads that lead down to where they are, rather than to get it from property taxes from existing citizens?
We have done that over the last 18 months or so, multiple meetings.
So it's a new idea? Yeah.
Yes, it has come up
Okay.
in the last 18 to 24 months, and we've reassessed and redone zoning and agreements with
Yeah.
contractors for those impact fees, and even with logging companies as well, because they're tearing up the roads in the county.
Yeah.
And then they get
Yeah.
done, make their hundreds of thousands of dollars building
Yeah,
homes, and they
they
leave.
do. Well, a
So
lot
we
of this,
reassessed that,
yeah,
yes.
a lot of this tear up also came not only construction equipment, but when they were redoing that bridge, people were cutting through there, these big trucks, I think they did a lot too. But yeah, I worked for 20 years in the development business before I started working for the Federal Aviation Administration. I've seen how they do it, so. But I just thought this is odd that they don't do that here. Okay, so they have started that.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we did.
And I'll let you know what my tax is when I get my homestead exemption.
Come look for your
Yeah.
assessment notice in May.
Yeah, they didn't even have a homestead exemption on this thing. I don't know why they didn't think it's worth fooling with. Yeah, I know, people on the house part side.
I have a quick question. I guess I want to try to simplify this, so I'm trying to, like y'all are. So we're still gonna be able to do homestead exemption, it's just not gonna be under what they want the homestead exemption.
That's correct.
Correct.
Okay, see, that's what I was just figuring out about.
Yeah.
I think that was a lot of confusion for a lot of people when it first came out. They thought that we were gonna lose our homestead exemption. And really, our county has a better plan than what the state has
So
because
it's still
we're
gonna stay
scheduled.
the same, it's not
Yes.
gonna- that's not gonna change at all from what we had at floating.
Right.
Okay.
Now, to her point of, the higher taxes here versus Cobb County has a lot to do with the sales tax revenue that an area like that does. The gentleman earlier mentioned Noonan's area. If you can drive a lot of sales tax revenue to handle transportation, you don't need a T-Splosh, you don't need the Splosh to, rebuild a courthouse and those things. That's one of the obstacles that Meriwether County faces, is that we do not have the industry, we do not have enough people in the county purchasing and buying things to drive those tax dollars up, which is like a fair tax. Everybody's paying sales tax. You don't want to pay that tax, you don't buy anything.
So we need the infrastructure to support that.
Right. In some cases, we do, and we have infrastructure for like the industrial park in the areas, but there are other areas of the county, we need more infrastructure to be able to get more homes and access people with better services. So and that's one of the reasons why in the last 5 years, the board has not raised the millage rate, because inflation still happens to what the government has to do, the fuel you buy, the salary increases for every person. Everybody wants a cost of living raise every year, steel, wood, whatever it is, everything that we do to keep the county running goes up every year, just like what you do at home does. And we've been able to not increase taxes because of the growth that's happening in the county, the new homes being built, the new jobs being added in the existing factories, a couple of new businesses that did come in. Some of the tax abatements that are done on new businesses are dwindling down, and we're getting more tax revenue from them than we did initially. So where people were worried about that, but we got new jobs here. Now it's starting to hit where that tax revenue is coming in because they're not getting that tax abatement that they would get coming in. Yes.
Another question, the lock that we're under now that has our values locked where they are, is there a time limit on that?
No.
So it's indefinite.
As long as you own the property.
Okay.
The only way that can change is if the citizens petition the state legislator to have it added to the next voting docket. And then the county can vote to repeal it, like they tried to do in 2004, but it failed. So if you have enough citizens approach the state legislature to say, we want to get out of this, then they can have it put on the ballot, and then we can vote on it again. That's the only way it can change.
Okay, if you inherit property that's been in your family for 50 years, does that count as being a new property owner, or do you keep the old one?
No, that counts as being a new property.
Okay.
There are ways around that too, if you will investigate. Yes, sir.
If you opt out,
See after the meeting.
if you opt out, it's probably not permanent, so when you have an opportunity to opt back in.
It is permanent.
It is permanent.
We can petition the state legislator for our region to then come back and put a specific item, this specific item back on our local ballot to go back in. But that would take significant effort and time. So if we, at some point, there is an out to that, if in a few years, the citizens of the county say, oh, the board made a bad decision, we say we screwed up, there is a path to come back in, it would just take time. But I don't think, my opinion is this is not a mistake, but. This is good. Anything else?
I'm so sorry. If you did speak, will you please come sign the piece of paper? I do need you to sign that. Please and thank you all.
If you are a renter, you rent a house, or you live in one of these apartments over here, you're not paying any school tax, right?
Right.
Technically, the property owner is the one that's paying the taxes. So if I own that house that I'm renting to you, I'm still paying that same property tax, except I'm not getting, because I'm not living in the home, I'm not getting any kind of homestead exemption on it. So I'm paying a higher tax rate.
Well, the public housing, then, does anybody, how do they pay school taxes?
The public housing?
I,
You said public housing? If it's owned by a government entity.
Yeah, so nobody living in there, nor the public houses have to pay any school tax, is that right?
Right.
It would be exempt. Yes.
Just like the county does not pay school or property taxes on this facility here.
Correct.
It's, you take it out of your right pocket, put it in your left pocket. It's just so any government-owned property in the county, whether it's public housing or office buildings, does not pay taxes. Now, for most renters, right, if I was a landlord and my taxes went up, then your rent's gonna go up. So it's, because it does impact everyone. So even the people that don't realize, well, I don't own the property, so I don't care, and let's do, your cost is gonna go up too, sooner or later. Because if it's a good business person that's in the rental, business, then when your costs go up, you just transfer that to whoever's buying your product. And that's the way business works. Nobody's gonna keep taking extra costs. So. We have to have this open for an hour. So anything you guys wanna talk about, by law, we have to remain open for this for an hour. So, yes, ma'am.
Can you discuss local retail possibilities, potentialities that are maybe in the works or?
Some of those is two things. Some of those I do not know about. That's all handled by the Industrial Development Authority or the Chamber of Commerce in the local cities. So we are not always privy to that information. And then there are a couple of things that, because of legal reasons, we can't speak about right now. Because then it would be, there's confidential things that we can't talk about because of real estate. If a certain company was coming to an area, then people will realize, oh, that property value close to it that I own is about to increase or decrease, and they want to start selling or whatever, buying land so they can flip it and sell it in a year when that business is done. We can't discuss those things. But there are a lot of things in the works that we do not know about until it gets further down the road. So you could approach your IDA, the Industrial Development Authority, the Chamber of Commerce in the cities, and they can give you information on, what irons do they have in the fire, what potential things are coming.
Next up, I don't know if this is y'all either. On 362 Callaway Road, is it still in the works to replace the bridge?
I believe it is. I've had my brain wrapped around this, so I can't remember those projects. But if you don't mind giving her your name and number or email, then we can get that answer to you.
That's GDOT, that the Georgia Department of Transportation, they're the ones that are responsible for that. We can get answers for you, but.
Not that I want it to happen, mind you. Quite the contrary.
No,
And ma'am, you can put your name and information information over there. Thank you.
Do you all know whether the school board is also planning to opt out or?
They are
They
planning
are.
to. They announced it in the recent paper that their intent to.
And they have separate meetings over at the school board office that they have listed in the paper to go ask them questions too.
So they have to do the same process that we're doing. They have to have 3 public hearings to go through it.
So are the cities.
Yeah.
What's the newspaper you notice and
The,
Star
the Meriwether Star Mercury,
The Vindicator.
Yeah.
Vindicator.
Vindicator, I think now it's
It used to be
Meriwether Star
Manchester,
Mercury, but, yeah.
It was a Meriwether Vindicator and a Manchester Star Mercury. They're combined now. It's,
Correct.
what'd you say it
I
is?
think the Meriwether Star Mercury is
Yes, you'll
legal name of it.
see both names
It's
on the
also on
paper.
the website too.
Yeah. It's, and ma'am, it's also on the paper's website and the county website and the county Facebook page.
Mhm.
You probably find the school board meetings on the school board website.
Yeah, the Board of Education website will tell you when their meetings are and what their intentions are. But they did announce in the recent paper that their intent to opt out. And that's key, I'm sorry.
I know Manchester is having the meetings too,
Yes, ma'am.
but if they don't have homestead exemption, why are they having a meeting?
As a representation of the county citizens, they can do it in their local city versus coming all the way to this area. Each municipality has to hold those meetings so that the citizens can have their voice heard.
And at what point during the year will you all set your mill rate for?
We usually do it in September, October, in preparation for the budget that we're building for the next year. August,
So
September?
The current mill rate will remain the current mill rate through the end of this fiscal year.
Yes. No, we'll set it again in August, September, and then that will be what is applied to your tax bill for December. Yes.
You have about this to
I want the Eagles to win because they're full of Bulldogs. That's my logic there, so.
Yeah.
That's my kid.
I don't even know when Super Bowl is.
It's next Sunday night.
Thank you. Didn't have a clue.
Yep. So if you own a business, next Sunday and Monday, you can anticipate a lot of call outs of people not be coming to work or be hungover the next day, so.
Or buying chicken wings.
Or, yeah,
Yeah, you see that cheap?
Pizzas.
It's a good
Yeah.
time.
Did this clear up anything for anybody where there might have been some confusion about it? Did it kind of explain a little bit of what we were? I know up until we were getting ready for hearings, I didn't understand what House Bill 581 was. I know I just voted no on the ballot, but I did not know what it really was. Not gonna lie.
Is there anything we did or said that you think we shouldn't have or we need to improve on for the next 2 meetings?
Or questions you need us to follow up on for the next meeting that we couldn't answer?
We got some, but
I think, like you said, just keep it simple and saying like, all the wordage, that's what was getting me. And not just get to the point, you're still gonna have your, eligible for that. This is not gonna affect that, you can still apply for it. Because the way it was written, it's like, okay, we're gonna opt out, we're not gonna be able to opt back in. It's like, oh wait, what's that gonna do? So it's not, under their, set of rules, HVS is, for that.
I think it's important to make sure that everybody understands that if you need the money, you're gonna get it one way or the other.
yeah.
You're gonna get it one way or another.
That's never a good conversation. And, I've only been on this board, I just started the 3rd year. And I'll be honest, I was always frustrated and upset and what in the world is going on? What are they doing? Why does it take so long? And honestly, I'm still frustrated by it. But some of it I do understand and some of it is slow for a good reason. Some of it's not. And we're working on streamlining and making it more efficient so that the knots go away and we can get things done. But there are some things that are slow for a purpose, and that's to keep from showing favoritism or things like that. So we want to go pave a road or, you know, redo something, we got to go get out and get 3 different bids and all that and follow these rules to make sure one of us isn't just agreeing to give our buddy that has that company all the work we're doing here, you know, to keep those kind of things from happening. And that slows it down, right? Where you could say $100,000 to do that road, just call so-and-so, tell them go get it done. Right? And that's the way a lot of citizens think. And that's what I used to think is, I mean, I can get that done tomorrow. I know 2 people, but you can't because then you're showing favoritism and, you know, so those things that make it slow are good. Then there's other things that we're working on getting better at.
Well,
Better late than never, right?
Any questions for John in these 5 minutes?
yeah.
This is the dual role finance director and county administrator, John Gordon. So, any more questions? We got 4 more minutes. We'll go as long as you need to, but since y'all are being quiet, we've got to do it for an hour.
And again, if you spoke at all, please sign that sheet of paper for me.
Oh, I like this.
I mean, it's hard to believe we did this good a job. That's kind of what they're saying. I mean, but,
That's what happens when John's not here.
right, yeah.
Next
All right, I gotta ask, what about the bridge from One Springs?
When she asked about that other bridge, I knew that was coming from somewhere. I knew it.
They're working on it.
So we
I
were,
don't know when, but they claim it's gonna be maybe this next summer,
yeah.
2030 maybe.
Yeah, they've been,
Initially, they, COVID caused steel issues. The first company, I'm not sure, I may misspeak on it, just either ran off and didn't finish work they were paid for, or just got tired of waiting and went on to do other jobs. Somehow they just left. They had to find another vendor. Then the state approved grade of steel did not match CSX grade of steel that they want. And then it was on back order. You couldn't get it from all the shortages and everything. Those are some of the things that cause it to take as long as it has. We don't get updates. We can ask for one. We can put that on there to get it done. It trickles in, the updates on it, but there are people down there working and getting activity around it now. We can get an update and post that out of when the anticipated completion date is.
Because it's on before the train, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Why don't you just cut a hole through it and let it
And, you know, you ride by there and it looks like, are they building a bridge over that now? Or are they really gonna build another underpass or what? I don't know what they're doing. But you go and look around, you know, they did the one out in Durand much faster. They did the one over Flat Shoals Creek from Pine Mountain to LaGrange much faster. They did the one in LaGrange in front of the jail when you first come in from Pine Mountain much faster. I don't understand why this is taking so. I do know those 2 things I said, that the first vendor ghosted them some form of way. Then you gotta go through that rebid process again, right? So make sure you're not giving it to a buddy, which may take 3 months to get that done. And then the only steel that CSX would approve was not readily available, so.
I'll reach out for an update, we'll put it on the website. I drive by there every day, twice a day. But they have been working on it, I've noticed that.
Yeah, it's been
Over
working
the
on it,
past
but-
month or so they've been doing something over there. I don't know what.
Yeah, I don't live far from there, and every time I have to come from here and go juke line and then make that hard turn and my tires are scrubbing, and if you ever pull in a trailer, you gotta go all the way to town, turn around and come back. You just can't make that turn. I'm ready for it to be done too.
and apparently they poured part of the foundation incorrectly, and now they've had to rip that out and redoing it too. And
There we go.
yeah,
Check our website next couple days, I'll get, I mean, we'll post that out.
Anything else?
More likely I'll hit the train on my way home.
Yeah, it does seem to show up right after these meetings, and you hit that, is
I
a
would like
train.
us to go right under the tunnel, just keep on going.
Well, we are just hit the hour mark, so I want to appreciate everyone for coming. All of the comments had much value and appreciated, and we've got some feedback we need to owe some people, so we got the names, that's why she needs it on there, and then we'll put some of this information out on the county website so you can see it there. And as always, if you have any other questions or any concerns, reach out to your individual commissioner or to the staff here at the office, and we'll get you some help for whatever you may need. Yes, ma'am.
Some kind of map to see who our commissioner is.
It's me.
Yep.
I'm the problem, it's me. No, I just was elected in November, but I'm the because you sit on Primrose Road.
Yeah,
And so,
no,
yes,
that's
ma'am.
that's my parents.
Okay, well, I'm the one out there in
I live-
District 2.
Okay, I live in Woodland too.
Yeah, there's one online.
It's,
It's outdated, I think.
Yes, I think
No.
if you go to our website under commissioners,
So I live
It
out
doesn't show.
in Shambles Village,
It's not up there.
way
I haven't found it.
Easton and Woodland.
There's not one on the website, we'll put one out.
Which direction you
Yeah,
live?
like you go from here, you go to Lizardville, go to right out there, I think that's.
It's all on the website.
it's on.
It's still District 2.
Commissioner, what district?
Keene, Gene Keene,
Jean, yeah.
Okay.
cowboy hat.
And then you're the one for the Primrose, right?
Yes, ma'am, for that side. So if you go 2741,
Yes.
I have the left side of the road, and then it's different on the right-hand side. And then at the red light in Luthersville, I go straight down 54 and go out that way. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, the map, if you go to meriwethercountyga.gov and go to,
Yeah, well, that tells you the district, it tells you which commissioner
Well-
goes to the district.
so if you go to that commissioner's page, after you get down past their photos, there's a link down there that says Meriwether County Commission and School Board Districts.
And it shows his district.
It does, yes, ma'am, and it has all the roads and everything on there so you can find your road and,
I saw the big map, the city section, but it didn't say who the commissioner was.
yeah, okay.
I also have one
It's
in
on
my
there, but we don't
office.
have it.
Okay,
Just take a picture.
Down there again. I didn't get in there.
Matthew, when did you upload that? I looked
All right,
that
do we
link
have
up
any
there.
other comments about House Bill 581 for this open public meeting? Hearing none, do I have a motion to come out of public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? We're out of public hearing at 7:02. All right. There's no attorney, so we don't have a need for an executive session. Do we?
No.
Okay.